why are you doing this? Is it really because your passion is driving you to get this degree, or what? Or are you going to a country of your choice, maybe because it's then easier to be there and to have a visa or whatever it is? If these are things that drive you, then you're not going to be happy, and you'll not even feel that it makes any sense very quickly. And that, as I say, it's not just in higher education, on research, in the academy, but generally in life. If you're doing something, but actually you don't want to do it, you very quickly start sabotaging yourself.
Welcome to this new episode of Beyond the Thesis with Papa PhD. Today I have the great pleasure of having with me Dr. Agnieszka Piotrowska. She is a filmmaker, academic, and certified life coach whose work unpacks the invisible stories people carry, particularly those who appear outwardly successful but wrestle with anxiety, isolation, or a lingering sense of unfinished business. Through the Scholar's Mentor, her coaching and mentoring platform, she supports international PhD students and accomplished professionals in reclaiming their voice and direction, not through empty affirmations, but through honest conversation, creative exploration, and a clear-eyed view of what's really going on beneath the surface. Dr. Agnieszka, welcome to Beyond the Thesis with Papa PhD. It's great to have you here. We're going to talk about some difficult topics because often are even taboo. So I'm really happy that we could find some time to talk a little bit about your experience, your journey, and what brought you to decide to make your mission to help young researchers, not so young researchers, with this type of issue, which we know is widespread. Welcome.
Right. Well, thank you so much. Lovely to be talking to you. Yes, so my own journey has been through kind of industry, doing various things, doing a PhD, and then working in higher education for some 12 years before I stepped down. So I still work part-time in higher education, supervising PhD students, but mostly I work kind of as a personal mentor and coach, and also have been spending more time writing, which I'm very happy about. So, I acknowledge and recognize that it's easy, and I know a lot of people you talk to discuss strategies to get out maybe of higher education and academy and do other things, which I think is right and proper, because when you do a PhD, I think you get into a sort of mindset thinking, oh my goodness, and now what? Even if I get this PhD, where will it take me? What does it mean? What am I going to do with it? And does it even make any sense? And I think that everybody goes through this type of way of thinking. What I have noticed particularly, and this is not just me, but statistics say that international students, including research students, particularly suffer all kinds of anxieties as they are going through the journey. Now, the PhD journey, as we know, is tricky in any event for anybody. It shouldn't quite be so tricky. It could be more joyful, because it should be fun, really. You've decided to embark upon something that is to do with your passion, or should be, that is to do with your own goal, what you want to do, and you maybe want to look at something just for yourself, right? So it should be fun, but it somehow a lot of the time is not fun. And I think I'm most familiar with structures in this country, so in the UK, but also internationally in Europe and Poland, and also in US. And the US is also very tricky, actually. So what happens is particularly, it's not nice to be critical, and I don't like to particularly criticize anything, but it is true that higher education has become kind of very influenced by neoliberal strategies and policies, and so it's hardly like a university. It's a space for joyful discovering of knowledge, right? Unfortunately. So it's driven to sort of market forces. How can I get a job? How can I do something impactful, whatever that might mean? Because first of all, it's too early to know how you're going to be impactful when you are on the journey, right? But particularly people who come from different parts of the world to come and study in a different place for whatever reason, there is evidence that they can often suffer, that they can feel lonely, anxious, obviously, homesick, all kinds of things. It's sort of massive research which shows that we're talking about really quite considerable amounts of people, sort of 75%. My own students, as opposed to kind of clients, as it happens that the people who I am closest to have come from different cultures, and you see the various testimonies on our website, and they are very happy and successful people now. And the three I'm thinking about are indeed academics, because that's what they've chosen to do. But even these people who are highly motivated, very jolly people to begin with, they too have had a variety of issues, and some of them are institutional issues. So pressures put on individuals embarking on the journey are often to do with structures and institutions. And when I can, I like to help. And I certainly have helped within institutions to begin to shift a conversation about doctoral research, but also the issue is, how do you deal with it on your own, right?
Yeah, that's great insight, and I agree. And like you said, there's literature out there showing the amount of mental health issues that graduate students specifically, but not only, early career researchers present, and it's significant. Now, you've mentioned that people who are traveling from abroad to get their degree have, let's say, a specific set of challenges that they find. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Because the audience it's around the world. I'm here in Montreal, Canada, but there's audience in the States, in Europe, in Asia, in Africa, and all parts of the world where people travel to go get their higher education degrees. So what are the caveats? What are maybe the pitfalls that people often don't prepare for, and that end up being obstacles and making them suffer more than they need or than they should?
Well, I think, it's a very good question. And of course, the first thing to think about and to do is to do proper research into the place and institution you're going to be going to. People often go to institutions for reasons that are complex, and this is just what it is. And they can be not necessarily to do with their supervisors, and sometimes to do with the prestigious institution, right? So because they would like to be somewhere special, or sometimes conversely, they end up not in the institution of their first choice because that's the institution where they've been accepted to be. So the first thing I would say is think very clearly why you're doing what you're doing. Why really? So, there's this thing which I called my own PhDs in psychoanalysis. So I always look at the unconscious mechanisms. So there's always a massive discrepancy, not just in this, but in anything in life, between what we say we want and what it is that we actually want. And it is really helpful to try and somehow close that gap so that you really begin what it is that is driving you anyway. What it is that you might like. How would you define success? Because research students come, for example, to this country, UK or US or Canada, anywhere really. First of all, I'm sorry to say, but very typically because their families say, "Oh, wouldn't that be great for you to go and study abroad? And we can even come up with some finance." Usually they do, right? Sometimes people get a scholarship, which is wonderful, but even that puts a lot of pressure on everybody. So, why are you doing this? Is it really because your passion is driving you to get this degree, or what? Or are you going to a country of your choice, maybe because it's then easier to be there and to have a visa or whatever it is? If these are things that drive you, then you're not going to be happy. And you're not even feel that it makes any sense very quickly. And as I say, it's not just in higher education, on research, in the academy, but generally in life. If you're doing something, but actually you don't want to do it, you very quickly start sabotaging yourself and or become anxious. If you sabotage yourself, I always think, well, it depends how much you sabotage yourself. But if you decide actually you want to do something else, then fine, right and proper, But if you start sabotaging yourself, for example, just destroying your body for example, taking some substances, so that you can say, well, there you have it, I can't cope, then I suggest this is a disaster. On the most basic level, it's important to really research the people who will be your supervisors. So it's such an obvious thing to say, but people just don't somehow. It just, like, if they've chosen an institution and the general topic, then you just think, oh, well, I'm sure the institution knows, anybody will do. Well, definitely not. I would say really try and meet with this person beforehand. Try and find out if they've had any completions and how many. And if possible, even talk to their former students. Not always possible, but often it is possible. Because you want to be with somebody, if possible, as your director of studies, who has had completions, meaning who has seen somebody through the journey, right? Because if you work with somebody absolutely charming, but they don't know what they're doing, then there's going to be a problem, I'm telling you. So you want a specialist, right? You want an expert. Now, these things are in general terms typical for any candidate, any research student. The person from a different country will have further difficulties, is that they typically lack the network of friends and relatives, right? Because they come to a
Which
different country.
they left it
They left
behind.
behind. So if they come to some kind of a problem, it quite often can be huger problem than it needs to be. And then it's important, of course, to take action, but then it's hard, because if you're coming from abroad and now there's international research student, then you don't want to immediately go to the institution and say, well, can I please access your counseling services? Because you think, oh, God, I don't want to immediately look like trouble. But you need to do that. You need to somehow, if there are issues with how you feel, it's very important to catch these things early on, in whatever way. So if for example, classic signs would be you're not sleeping well because you're anxious, because you have the first threshold and whatever. Some institutions put these thresholds early on, right? So suddenly you arrive and you think, oh my God, I have to do something, present something in 3 months' time, which is far too early. And then you stop sleeping and so on. So I would say absolutely seek help of some sort. Go and see a GP, a doctor. If you don't want to go through the institution, then even talk to a Samaritan. I would say perhaps not to talk to AI. It's good to talk to AI like ChatGPT, to begin with briefly, but obviously be careful not to just rely on these models, because as we know, it can lead to difficulties. So if you notice that you're not happy, that you're not well, that you're not sleeping, that you're feeling anxious, then it is absolutely vital to seek help immediately. Yes, the university counseling services, but also talk to your doctor, talk to Samaritans, talk to anybody, almost friends, just talk. The process, psychoanalytically, we know the process of speaking or writing is helpful. What is not helpful is holding on to your feelings inside and somehow hoping for the best that they go away, which is why it could sometimes, there is evidence also. I know this, AI and ChatGPT had terrible press recently, but on the other hand, there has been a BBC podcast called Future Human, I think, on therapy that is given by AI. And if it's brief, if your discipline can be a bridge. So, for example, even if you go and see university for counseling, it would be extremely unusual that they'll get you a counselor next day or next week. And the same with a doctor. So sometimes it can be helpful to talk to briefly, and you have to be disciplined. I use it with somebody. So if you came to me and, oh, I really like the idea of also, it'd be fun if we also at the same time talk to AI. So we do this, but obviously I'm there and human is there. So the human mediates the encounter, which I think is important. If you as a research student, you're not presumably 16, but you're in your 20s at least, or 30s or something. So you should know that there are dangers of AI and you might be able to curate it. I would still say the process, the mechanics of just speaking about how you feel is absolutely crucial. It's like the first step. Now, if you then work with somebody, I am a great believer in basic things like exercise, sunshine, and also some basic meditation, but basic kind of setting intention for this and that. But all this is fine. And some people, and I know them, really needed more than that, more needed proper support. Because also I think it's very important to know not to blame yourself, not to think, oh, why am I feeling this way? I'm weak. No, everybody feels like that. And some people can get through it with greater degree of ease and others find it difficult.
Yeah. And again, yeah, this all depends on the culture you come from, the family you come from. There's so many variables on, and you're also your inner, how you're built psychologically, but you're the expert on that. Now, one thing before we maybe go on into some practices, some tools, some interventions that work. I've talked with different people. I've interviewed people who have dropped out of their PhD. And I've talked with people who have done it and who are happy with their decision. I've talked with people who have dropped out either of their PhD or of the academic career and are not happy with their decision. They feel that like they were kind of forced to do it by different contexts and different variables. But this question of dropping out from my conversations crosses a PhD student's mind. Most everyone at a certain point will think about, should I be doing this? Am I, is this actually something that I need as a person? Or is this difficulty and are these challenges something that I actually don't need in my life? And there's different answers to that, of course. But for someone who's listening or watching and is in this kind of weighing, okay, this is tougher than I imagined. My family, my close friends are, 6,000 miles away. And I think I might need to quit. Again, like I said, I don't think there's a right or wrong answer, but for people who are in this very difficult reflection, because often there are, like you said, family expectations, supervisor expectations, etc., etc. What's a healthy way to navigate that question and to get to an answer that's healthy and that you can be at peace with?
Obviously, it's a crucial question. I don't have a crystal ball. I have many talents, but I'm not a magician, but I can share some of my insights. So I started a PhD as a mature student already, meaning not straight from school. I had successes already in professional life as a filmmaker. I was very confident. I knew what I was doing. My PhD was in psychoanalysis and ethics and documentary film. Film is my key discipline. So I thought it's going to be a walk in the park. And it appears like it was a walk in the park because I did it quickly. I did it very quickly, efficiently, did mine in the end with no corrections, which is in the UK, it's unheard of. It's like a tiny percentage. So it did go very well in the end. But at the beginning, and it was early on, I did have grave doubts about this course of action. Like, really, I thought, why am I even being tortured? Is this like some kind of insanity? Because I had fabulous supervisors. The core team was fabulous, but there was an auxiliary supervisor who maybe, it's possible, felt insecure because I already had these other successes. I felt, and maybe it was a woman as well, she tried to show off in front of these other more senior supervisors. But the long and short of it is that I was very unhappy and literally was thinking, I don't actually need this. So again, I went to see this professor who was in charge of the graduate school. So she wasn't my supervisor. She's a wonderful Lynn Siegel. She's a feminist, and she was already then, and this is 12, 13 years ago, she was already then appeared quite ancient. She's still around, full of beans. And I was in floods of tears, and she was so astonished because she really didn't expect me to be in floods of tears. And she said, stop it. Everybody goes through it. So what you need to do is ask the committee to move you, ask for this person who made you so unhappy not to be on your team for at least 6 months. do that as the first thing, and then consider other form of help, as we said, support if your friends are not enough, the peer group. Now, so I wasn't sure, but I did that. So this person was removed. But you see, I was kind of lucky because my PhD, as I say, was in psychoanalysis. So as part of this PhD, I could argue that I was training to become a psychoanalyst. As part of the training, you have to go and be analyzed. So I'm being completely honest here, confessional, even disclosure. So I kind of said, oh, I'm going through it for these reasons rather than I'm being supported as well. And so if I would say when there's a moment of despair, try and get through it before it's like other moments of despair in our lives. Very often, just give it a week and then maybe life will seem different. So you seek your help, somebody to talk to. You need to remove something in your direct vision. So I removed that auxiliary supervisor. That was easy. If it's your primary supervisor, and as I say, maybe you shouldn't have been in that position in the first place. If you can see through this qualification, then it will be great because it will give you the sense of achievement. It is fun to be able to say, I am Dr. Piotrowska. It is fun. And you know what? When actually one of my former students, Priyanka, she's from India, and she always tells the story at events like this to say she was in some despair. And I said to her, look, imagine your credit card saying, and this is mine, saying Dr. Singh or Doctor. At that point, she was Dr. Savita, and she loved it. So she made up a little card which said her name, like a little credit card, put it on her vision board. And, all kinds of challenges happened to her, but she got it. She's very happy and it's all going swimmingly. So it's the issue of sort of getting through and getting some team on your side to help you, even though it's a project that is an independent research, right?
Yeah, of
You
course,
still
of course.
need people to help you, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. Plus, what you had said before of doing your homework and really vetting the people you are going to be working for and with, under in those 3 years if you're in the UK, but 5, 6 if you're here in North America.
Yeah, and also, I did get my PhD in 3 years flat, and I'm very proud of it. But typically, it's still, even in the UK, it would be more like 4, 3.5,
Before,
4. Really.
that extension, yeah.
But yeah, and so it's of absolutely crucial importance. And people also, so first of all, your internal motivation. Why are you doing it? Are you passionate about your topic anyway? Would you be doing it anyway? And if not, then I would think hard. Because it's nice to have a PhD, but it's certainly not the only way forward, is it?
No.
You can be happy in life without a PhD. Just do it. For me personally, I know that people from different cultures, different territories, do it also because they think it will be a passport to prestige in the country in question, and their original family will be happy. And that these are good motivations, but you still have, it's you who's doing it. You still have to somehow pull it off. And 3 or 4, 5 years or 6, whatever it is, it is quite a long time. Even if you do it in 3 years flat, it's a long, long time to be unhappy. So it's not something to consider if you are not, for me, if you're not sure if you really, really are passionate about your topic. If you're not passionate about your topic, honestly, find the topic that you are passionate about or go do something else. And this is, totally my first piece of advice. If you then stuck, then sure, come and see me, I'll help. But it's a problem. It's a problem if you actually are a bit semi-bored with what you're doing, because it's a lot of work, and even in the current day and age, which some things are a lot easier than when people were doing PhD 30 years ago, because it literally, no proper internet, no nothing. I've mentioned, yes, because I'm a great fan of AI, consider using it for feedback. So if you're writing something, show your work to, say, Claude is good for feedback. But be very, very, very careful not to use these things as a ghostwriter, because you are literally lobotomy. Even aside ethics, aside if they catch you, let's just think they are not going to catch you. This is your space when you're developing your skills, and these skills will hold you in some good stead, hopefully, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, hopefully, yeah.
so it doesn't make any sense. You're paying money, even if you got a scholarship there, it's the hardship, this, that, and the other. Then why would you then sort of use a ghostwriter to write his stuff? So be very, very careful. So it's not, against you. And then at the Viva, of course, if you don't know your material really, really well, then you might be caught, which will be a catastrophe, basically.
Yeah. So preparation, of course. Agnieszka, we're almost reaching the end of the interview, and before we do, and before I ask you how people can reach out to you and links to a scholar's mentor, etc., I'd love to know if you can share fairly quickly an intervention, a practice, something that people can apply if they're going through these tough moments of maybe thinking of dropping out, or simply they are homesick, they are having trouble finding a sense in what they're doing, and thinking, wow, I cut myself away from, let's say, my family if they're from overseas, and now I'm stuck here for 3 years doing this. I just wonder whether there's something that you can share in this last minute or two that they can apply today.
As I mentioned, do basic things. Don't always think the solution is some kind of miracle. If you feel unhappy and you feel you can't talk to your family at home because they'll be upset, then find somebody else to talk to. And like who? Anybody, the counselor, the GP, yes, but go to receptionists. They're always so bored. They usually are super happy to talk to somebody. So go and talk to them. Speak, let the words come out, particularly if you're anxious about your language. Secondly, challenge negative thoughts. Again, it's more helpful to work with somebody to be challenging your negative thoughts. But even a thought like, oh, I don't know, I'm hopeless, I'll never get this PhD, then you have to yourself, it's good to learners, basic CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, challenge it. No, I'm not hopeless. I am here in a foreign country. I am one of this tiny amount of people who's doing it. Far from hopeless, I'm brilliant. And literally say these words to yourself. When the thought comes, am I actually, in fact, hopeless? Then you have to say, no, I'm not hopeless. I am, in fact, brilliant. And you'll see, bizarrely, I know you're smiling already, but you'll feel better. You immediately think, oh, actually, I am a bit brilliant. So it's like a little leap to just a different space. Then if you're working with somebody, do the meditation. There's so many meditations. Obviously get in touch with me and I'll offer you guided meditation. But frankly, you don't have to do that. Go online, find 6-phase meditation, say from Mind Valley, and you can listen to it. This is a short thing. It's like 16 minutes, I think. So you can do this and you will feel better. Do things that make you feel better. Be nice to yourself. Go for a little walk in the sunshine. But honestly, I think the affirmation can sometimes be misunderstood, because if you really feel down, it's just nonsense to try and
fake.
Let me raise my vibration so I manifest. You're not going to manifest anything if you're feeling miserable, but you can challenge these thoughts. And also, if you're doing the PhD for your mother, I'm not at all suggesting it's a good plan, but let's say you're doing it for your mother. Again, don't be hard on yourself. Okay, it's not a really terrible thing to be doing it for your mother. You can imagine the mother and how happy she'll be when you're in your gown getting your thing. How she'll be so proud that you have this credit card which says Dr. Be kind to yourself is the absolute, and then it's a sort of tension that you have to hold between being kind to yourself and being a bit disciplined and talking to anybody who can be bothered to listen. If none of this works, and if you think, what, I want to be an artist and not an engineer, then life is too short, honestly, to be doing things you don't want to do. But I'm happy to talk some more, as we discussed, and tell you more stories.
Wonderful. That we will have other conversations for sure. Agnieszka, thanks for all those insights. Thanks for all that actionable advice. It all makes a lot of sense, and I'm sure it's going to help people listening or watching. Now, if people listening or watching us want to find, to learn more about the Scholar's Mentor's Guide to Global Success, or want to reach out to you, want to find your content, where do they go? What are the links they should follow? Of course, please share them now here on camera, and then I'll put them in the show notes.
Exactly. I'll share them with you. I'm very easily findable on on Instagram, yes, but Facebook and mostly on LinkedIn. And the Scholars Mentor, so Scholars, the plural, Mentor, we have a website and we are there, and the book is available on Amazon. But yeah, you just reach out and I'll send you the links so you can put them in the chat as well.
Wonderful. I'll put them in the show notes so people can maybe buy the book and understand and see what you offer if they feel that they would like to work with you, of course. Agnieszka, this has been a great pleasure. I really appreciate the inside knowledge of going through graduate school that you brought to this conversation, but also your own color, your own way of talking about things that is very, how can I say, uncomplicated. I think everything you've said is very easily applicable for people who are watching and struggling with these issues. Anyway, in the name of the community, thank you so much for this time that you spent.
And also, please reach out to David if you have any questions in particular. And then what we can do is meet again and answer the questions, right? That would be nice thing to do as well. So we can do that, and I'll be happy to do that and share some more, whatever you would like to discuss. So thank you so much for inviting me.
Wonderful. Thank you.